Welcome on in episode 50 of the Talking Friars podcast. I'm your host, Ben Fadden here, coming to you after a painful loss to the Oakland Athletics that the Padres suffered. It looked really good at the beginning, all the way through. It looked good through 8 2/3 innings, but there's a reason why this game isn't timed. This isn't basketball where you can drain out the clock. Or when a team's down, they foul and they don't have a great chance of coming back. In football, you can take a knee. You can't do that in baseball, and that hurt the Padres today because they couldn't get the final out of the game. That's what it came down to. We'll get to that. We'll recap this Oakland series, just a quick 2-game series with Oakland. We'll give you some takeaways from that. Preview the Arizona series a little bit and what's to come there, and kind of compare where the Padres are in their division with the Giants, with the Dodgers, and in the wild card race. So that's what we have on tap today. Thanks for coming in and listening. If you're on YouTube, thanks for doing that. Make sure to subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever, thanks for that. Make sure you can hit the subscribe button on that as well. Let's get off into game 1 of this series in Oakland. Padres fans showed up. I did want to mention that. I think they showed up pretty well. It looked, the Valley Sports camera angles when the Padres scored and the players were coming into the dugout. It was a lot of Padre fans. You couldn't see many A's fans. I know there was only like 11,000, almost 12,000. Night one, wasn't sure. I'm not sure what the attendance was in the day game. Obviously, probably less, but Padres fans showed up, and it sucks for the Padres fans that showed up to the second game, but it was good for those that went to the first game. So let's get into the first game. Pre-game, Padres activated Matt Strahm from the to put into the bullpen. They DFA'd Jorge Mateo. I said on the pre-game thoughts, Matt Strahm is going to bring a lot of versatility, I think, to the Padres bullpen. Not only is he a lefty, which helps, but he also can pitch multiple innings. He can pitch in pretty much any scenario that Jace Tingler and Larry Rothschild want him to pitch in, whether that's, being a long guy. If, Ryan Weathers goes 3 innings, or Blake Snell, has his pitch count up early, which we'll get into, which was surprisingly he didn't. Whether it's just a regular inning, 6th inning, 7th inning, 8th inning, something like that to give other relievers a day off when Daniel Hudson comes back, or if Melanson needs a breather, or Drew Pomerantz, they like a matchup better, or just a fresh arm, he could definitely help this bullpen. So this is going to be a very welcoming move because the bullpen's been taxed this year, obviously. And one of those big guys is Stammen that I look to, and I think that he's going to have – I know he's a righty and Strahm isn't a righty, but the pressure I don't think will be as much on Stammen because Strahm can do the things that Stammen can do in terms of innings length and stuff like that, just from the opposite side. So it'll probably just be a matchup thing, but a huge boost to the Padres bullpen. And he pitched on Tuesday night, went 1 inning, didn't give up a run. He struck out a batter, 14 pitches in that 8th inning. So I get the game was a blowout pretty much, but he's going to just do his job, and that's all the Padres want him to do. Jorge Mateo, obviously, like I said, he was DFA'd. He didn't have a spot, on the roster really. He's the speedster, right, coming off the bench, using extra innings, pinch hit, play short or third or whatever when it's a blowout or something. But he didn't really have a place on this roster. So this was expected. Him being DFA'd, he's available for any team to pick him up now in the next 10 days. Then if no team picks him up, Padres can option him to the minors, I believe. Or I think they release him. So that's a scenario with Mateo. Again, with Jake Marisnick being traded from Chicago to the Padres, Marisnick does everything that Mateo can do. He's fast. He's good at defense. He can play the outfield. He can pinch hit. He can do all those things, all of them better than Mateo. I know Mateo probably beats him in the speed category, but Marisnick isn't slow by any means. So Marisnick's just a better all-around player, and they're going to keep that guy on the bench who can do all the things Mateo can do just because it makes them a better team. So Mateo DFA'd, Strom came up. That was prior to Tuesday's game. So welcome back Matt Strom. Obviously that one inning, like I said, one shutout inning on Tuesday. As for this game, the story of the game was Blake Snell. The secondary story, which I'll get to now, was the offense. Austin Nola, man, what a game he had. 4-hit game. He goes 4 for 5, scored a run, drove in 2 on his big double down the left field line. That scored Manny Machado and Will Myers. That kind of blew it open. That made it, 6-1. So that really blew it open. Tommy Pham hits a leadoff homer, had a great at bat to start the game, a 9-pitch at bat, homers to left center. So it was all around a good offensive performance, which the Padres needed. They didn't score runs much. For Snell, I know Snell sucked his last time out against Oakland at Petco, but they didn't score really any runs there. The offense kind of underwhelmed in the middle 2 games of that Rocky series before Kim hit the homer and had the big double down the left field line in the series finale. So this was good. Obviously, whatever, the A's are a playoff team. So whatever you could score a bunch of runs off the A's. Sean Manaea, he was great at Petco this past week, but he didn't have his stuff, and the Padres capitalized. 5 runs, no walk. He didn't walk anyone, but he gave him 8 hits. Only goes 4 1/3. So this was kind of like a Blake Snell start. It was just Sean Manaea doing it for Oakland. 99 pitches, a lot of pitches, long at bats. Obviously started with the Pham, first batter of the game. He had a long at bat to Myers in the 3rd. 8-pitch at bat there. Had another long at bat to Machado and Cronenworth back to back in the 5th. Before he was taken out after walking Myers in the 5th. So it was a Blake Snell start that Sean Manaea did. Just he wasn't as effective in the strike zone as he probably should have been. Walks, hard contact, just hits all around the diamond. So the Padres are fortunate that it wasn't Blake Snell doing that. While he did do that, I'm going to get into that now. He did do that a little bit, but he did it less, and he was able to get out of jams where Manaea was not able to do that. Blake Snell, he goes 105 pitches, which was amazing to see because his pitch count, it's usually 80 or 90 pitches, through 4 2/3 or something, and they have to take him out early because of how wild he is sometimes, or he nibbles, gets ahead in the count, ends up walking guys, just walks, a lot of prolonged innings, and that happened. But he got through 5 innings, and really, if he only can go 5 innings the rest of the year, I think that could still be a success because of how deep the bullpen is and how versatile it is. It has multiple guys that can go multiple innings, and that, with Matt Strom, with Craig Stammen, and it can add a 3rd guy with Dinelson Lamet. Hopefully he can be healthy later in the year. So when there's bullpen arms, obviously Miguel Diaz is here. He can do that. There's bullpen arms that can pitch multiple innings to fill in those innings. And so if Tingler says, hey, give me 5 innings, all you got, and we'll hand it over the bullpen, I think if he can deliver a start, at least with the results, not maybe if you're watching the game, those results, but just the line, if he can go 5 innings, 1 run, 6 strikeouts, I know he walks 3, but really all that matters, 5 innings, 1 run. If he can do that, I mean, that's why AJ Preller didn't go out and get out and starting pitching, because he said Blake Snell just needs to be better, and this would be better. This would classify as better if he can continue doing this. So very encouraging. But I don't want to be the negative man, but the same, the line looked good, but with that said, it wasn't that spectacular in my mind, because I watched the game. I kept score of every pitch. So what I didn't like, what I did there, let's start with the positive. What I did like out of Blake Snell was the fact that, he attacked. He seemed like he was more confident out there. He wasn't, let's say, just kind of, I guess, flustered, if that's, that's a word to describe it. He just didn't seem, it wasn't like past starts where he struggled and then it's like you can tell he walking around the mound, stuff like that. Excuse me, that he's just not there mentally. Here it looked like he was there mentally. He gives up the homer to Starling Marte, but I mean, he was there mentally, and we saw he was there mentally because he was able to get out all of these jams. And so, well, let's talk about these jams. That's some of the, I mean, that's the good, right? The good is that he was able to get out of the jams. First inning, second and third, no outs, got out of it. Second inning, had second and third, 1 out, got out of it. With some help from Myers. Third inning, runner on third, no outs, got out of it. Runner on third, 1 out, got out of it. And then the fourth inning, runner on third, no outs, got out of it. So he was able to get out all of those jams. Now, the negative part of it is that it wasn't really him getting out of the jams most of the time. He had a lot of base runners, a lot of traffic, so obviously high stress pitches. But the defense was what helped him out. I mean, you look at the first inning, right? He allows the single, the double, pop up. Okay, good pitch. I mean, it wasn't a great pitch. Olsen kind of helped him there, popping him up. And then he strikes out Lowry, who he struck out again in the third. But in the first, that Jan with second and third, 2 outs, Jan Gomes on the third pitch of the at bat, that ball was smoked at Ha-Seong Kim. So that he didn't get out of the inning there. He was lucky that the ball was right to Ha-Seong Kim, because if that got past him, that was probably going to the wall. That's how hard that ball was hit. So I don't think he got out of that necessarily, but he was saved because the ball was hit right at Ha-Seong Kim. In the second inning, he didn't really get out of that either. Will Myers helped him get out of that. He had the strikeout looking for Ramon Laureano, good pitch. And then Josh Harrison, infield single. Matt Chapman, he walked Matt Chapman. So it's first and second. Double steal, which is a problem because Blake Snell, he just doesn't, it's like he doesn't even look at the base runners. And maybe he's told that, if there's a runner in scoring position, just focus on the batter, get this guy out. And hopefully, they don't steal. But double steal there. He walked Elvis Andrus, and then Mark Canha flies out. So he got the fly out, but Will Myers bailed him out. He threw out Josh Harrison at the plate. Maybe it was a bad send because of how early it was, but Myers it took an amazing throw to get him out, and Snell would have been caught with an earned run there, obviously. And so Myers bailed him out. So I don't think Snell got out of that inning. It was more Myers did it with a great throw. Because if Myers, let's say it wasn't a great throw, or it was short, like some Myers throws have been this year or in the past. Next up is Starling Marte, who went 3 for 3 against Snell in the first, in the third, and in the fifth. Double in the first, single in the third, homer in the fifth. So you're bringing up the guy that's owning Blake Snell to hit with runners in scoring position. I'm not so sure he gets out of it. Now he might, but we didn't see that. It kind of just looks like Myers bailed him out. So, but credit to Snell. He grinded through it. It looked like he was there mentally. Hopefully this is something he can build off of. I don't want to be Mr. Negative, like totally Mr. Negative, but I also want to tell you guys the way that I saw it and the way that it really actually was, instead of you just looking at the box score and like, oh, Blake Snell went 5 innings and only gave 1 run. Yeah, that's true, but he got help, being bailed out. He had runner in scoring position, first inning, second inning, third inning, fourth inning, fifth inning, obviously, because Marte had a homer. So all 5 innings, he had technically runners in scoring position. So that's not really a great start like the box score would say. So that's Blake Snell. 7 different players, back to the offense, 7 different players scored a run. That was good to see. I know with Tatis out, you can't always, just rely on Jake Cronenworth and Manny Machado to carry the freight or carry the lineup, And they didn't just carry it. Manny did well, 2 for 5, 2 runs. Jake 1 for 4, 1 RBI. But Austin Nola 4 hits, Tommy Pham a homer, another RBI. Who else contributed here? Trent Grisham scored 2 runs, 2 for 5. That was a great day. This is kind of a great series for Grisham. He really had been struggling. I mentioned on the last podcast how struggling, how much of a hard stretch he's had to go through. And so it's good to see him have, back-to-back good games. In the second game, or in the first game, I should say, made a great diving catch in the 7th inning, a 5-star catch. I think he's had 4 of those this year. So showed off his Gold Glove play in center. Obviously, the 2 hits in the first game. And then I believe he came through with another RBI in the second game. So a good series overall from him. If Austin Nola can hit, that's even another bonus, hitting it near the bottom of the order when Tatis gets back. So a good offensive performance all the way around. Again, the bullpen, I feel like I'm saying this almost every day. Obviously didn't say it, not going to say it for game 2, but game 1 of the series on Tuesday, no runs from Stammen, no runs from Pagan, no runs for Strom, no runs from Diaz. So the bullpen contributed. Blake Snell made progress. That's how, if you give me 2 words to describe Snell's performance, made progress, because the stat line's good. He was able to, at least what I thought, stay in it mentally, and he was able to grind through it, kind of like Musgrove's had to do, during this year. Now, so Padres win this one, 8-1, 14 hits, no errors. They did leave 9 on base, but that obviously didn't factor into it. So they improved to 62-47, 6 games back of San Francisco for first in the National League West. Moving over to game 2 of the series on Wednesday. They end up losing this one 4-3, dropped to 62-48, 6.5 back of San Francisco before San Francisco plays Arizona later today, and the Dodgers, with Max Scherzer making his Dodger debut, against the Astros, the Trastros in LA. Wednesday, again, like I mentioned, Padres lose 4-3, but when Joe Musgrove's on the mound, it's win day. The last 3 starts, it seemed like he was set up for a win. Did that the last 2 starts going into this one. That did not happen today, recording on Wednesday. But he did his part. This has to be one of the worst things about being a starting pitcher. You do your job, and then the bullpen blows it. It's like totally demoralizing. You did your job, and you don't get the win. That has to just suck. But Musgrove, 6 innings, 1 earned run on the mistake to Jed Lowry, 2 hits, only 1 other hit other than that homer, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts. Like I said, the 1 home run, 99 pitches. Can't say enough of how good Joe has been these last 3 starts. Like I mentioned, he's had to grind through starts this year after those first 4 starts of the year that included the no-hitter in Texas, obviously, on April 9th. He's had to grind through it. He hasn't been as effective, I think. Kind of leading into the All-Star break, it seemed like he needed that rest, kind of like every pitcher. But the last 3 starts, he's been tremendous. Again, 1 earned run on that 1 home run. Got that big double play near the end of his start. So, his last 3 starts, look at these numbers. 19 innings, 3 earned runs only, 20 strikeouts, 5 walks in 3 starts. 3 earned runs in 19 innings. That's averaging, like 1 earned run a start, let's just say that. That's amazing. So, Musgrove, obviously you're going to look at how important he's going to be to this rotation because of, the way it struggled. Darvish kind of struggling. Weathers obviously wasn't great last weekend with the 8 earned runs, the grand slam in the first. Blake Snell, yes, he made progress, like I just mentioned, but whenever it seems like he's making progress and we're like, oh, is this the next start? Is this the turning point in Blake Snell this year? He's going to turn into Blake Snell. He's going to turn into the 2020 World Series Blake Snell. Then he gives up like 4 runs against Milwaukee after that, I think, Colorado start at home earlier this year. I think then he gave up 4 runs to Milwaukee. So it's kind of been up and down for Blake Snell. And for Musgrove, it hasn't really been up and down. It's been up, and obviously he was going to have to go down because of the way he pitched, the way he started. I was like Cy Young worthy. And then it was kind of, straight. And then now it seems like it's back on the upward trajectory. So that's great news. And he's going to have to, keep pitching this way because you don't know when we're getting Chris Paddock back. And even when he's back, he's not a guarantee in terms of getting them innings, right? He has the oblique injury right now. Reese Kinnear filling in for him, it's good news. No disrespect to Reese, but they are able, with these 2 off days this week, they're able to skip over his start so that it's just the 4 of Darvish, Musgrove, Snell, Weathers making these starts. So it'll be Weathers, Darvish, Snell Friday, Saturday, Sunday against Arizona at Petco this weekend. So that's good news. But back to Musgrove, him and Darvish obviously are going to have to carry the rotation because you just don't know. You just can't count on consistency, in terms of innings, in terms of giving up, 3 or less runs with Weathers, with Snell. So hopefully, that can change and we can maybe try, start counting on that a little bit. But until we see Blake Snell doing this again and again and again and again and getting out of these jams and hopefully not even getting in these jams so we don't have to worry about that, Musgrove's going to be, I think he's the ace right now, just the way that Darvish has kind of struggled. So good job from Musgrove. That's the positive. I wanted to start with the positive first. Now here's the negative. Wasn't seeing this negative coming. This is definitely one of those games where, wow, Musgrove pitches well. The Padres give him enough runs, right? 3 runs. You hand it to the back of the bullpen, who's been absolutely fantastic this year with Melancon and Pomerantz. And, they did their job. Pomerantz did his job. He didn't give up a run in that 8th. Melancon did his job the first 2 outs of the inning. They had 2 outs, bottom of the 9th, 2-run lead, and then Melancon blows it. Now, you can look at my bullpen usage charts that I, publish before every game. The last 5 days goes over every pitch, every reliever, how many pitches they threw on a certain day, just to track who might be available, who might not be available, who they probably like to stay away from if they, have to. But looking at Melancon's, he had like a 3 or 4 day rest. So maybe it was a little bit of rust, or he just didn't have it. And I think it's the latter. He just didn't have it. A lot of balls. And when it was in the strike zone, it didn't seem like it was, very fast, obviously because of his age. His velocity's not that fast anyway, but it was a lot of pitches over the plate. Just the regular stuff that you'd assume when someone struggles. But blows the same in the 9th. Matt Chapman comes up with an RBI single, who's been struggling this year very much offensively. Jan Gomes, former Nats catcher, he came through with an RBI single to center. I was kind of fairly confident that he was going to be able to get Jan Gomes out, with the ground ball to short, something like that. But he lifts it into center field where it dropped. That tied it. Melancon had converted 7 straight saves, according to Jay Posner, former guest of the pod, going into this game. So you had to be confident, obviously. And I'll talk about confidence if I'm still confident in Mark and if you should be after this blown save. So obviously wasn't great. I think he threw 29 pitches, so wasn't a strong performance. But he rarely has back-to-back bad outings, so I'm not gonna say, is this a trend? No, it's not. So let's first, before we get into Melancon, we'll get to the rest of this game. In the 10th, Myers was able to move over Ha-Seong Kim, the pinch runner. Pham drove him in on a little dribbler to third that Matt Chapman bobbled, made it 4-3 San Diego. That lead would not hold up, obviously, in the bottom of the 10th. Tim Hill, he didn't have it, kind of like Melancon. You can look on the Talking Fire's Instagram story or on Talking Fire's Twitter, on the Twitter account. I put out a picture of that last Matt Chapman walk-off 2 RBI double off the wall where Nola was holding his glove and then where the pitch ended up. And it was a total mislocation. The ball was supposed to be down Hill wanted it to be down, obviously, where it was going to be hard for Olson to do much with it. Instead, it was higher in the middle of the higher in the zone, and it was inside in Olson's sweet spot as a lefty with like a golf finish, and Olson made Tim Hill pay. I mean, it was a good matchup. You're not going to go into that matchup with Tim Hill, a sidearmer. I get Matt Olson's their best hitter right now, him and Starling Marte. But you can't go into that matchup with a lefty, with Tim Hill, a lefty sidearmer facing a lefty on lefty, thinking that, oh, this is trouble. I didn't think that, at least, because Tim Hill, obviously, that wanky arm angle, can fool with guys, even the best hitters. We've seen that with the Giants this year, where he's come up big a little bit with the Dodgers. So I wasn't worried, but Olson obviously put a great swing on it. The pitch location wasn't where neither Nola or Hill obviously wanted it to be. And there's the walk-off. Starling Marte scores the game-winning run, and there it is. So I saw someone on Instagram, I think Braden, his first name, said, "Great route on defense by Myers," something to that effect. And I replied back, no, you can't really fault Myers on that. He was against the wall. His hand was on the wall. He jumped. He couldn't see the ball because of the sun if you go back and watch the highlights. So I'm not going to blame him for not catching the ball. Again, it was a totally just badly located pitch. So you can't really, and it was off the wall. Again, it's not like Myers had to just stay flat-footed. He did have to leave his feet. He couldn't see, obviously, middle of the day in Oakland. So I'm not going to get on him for that. But this is obviously a crushing loss. I tweeted that on the Twitter account. When you have Mark Melancon on the mound, MLB saves leader, he rarely has blown saves this year. He had a lot of rest, so it's not like you could use the excuse that, he's back-to-back days or 3 days in a row like he did in Miami this year, where he's tired. He had days of rest, but he just didn't come through. And he'll admit that. Pitchers are allowed to have off days, just like hitters are. Manny had a great, day in Oakland in the first game of the series. Then I think he went 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts today. So that's baseball. You're going to have good days. You're going to have bad days. So, but I mean, with that said, it was still a crushing loss. I mean, you have your closer on the mound, 2 outs. It looks like the game's over, right? 2 outs, up by 2. I don't think anyone was on base. And it all falls apart from there. And hopefully the Padres can beat the Giants, the Dodgers this year, the rest of the year. They can win games against Arizona and Miami and stuff like that, before September hits, where these games you can rack up wins, so that you're not looking back at this game and saying, dang, we had a 2-run lead with 2 outs and our closer couldn't come through. And then we even scored a run in extra innings and we still couldn't come through, because that would suck. There's games that come to mind this year where it's like, wow, we shouldn't have won that game. The Reds game comes to mind where Melancon choked it there, had an off night, gave it 4 runs. The India homer gave him the lead. Remember, that was reopening day at Petco. And then the Padres ended up coming back. Hosmer homer, Caratini homer. Don't forget Jake's clutch single there to get on base to tie the game on the Hosmer homer. That was a game where it's like, yeah, we shouldn't have won that game, but we were lucky we won it. That was the opposite here. We should have won this game, and we didn't win. And so it really sucks. Because now if the Giants win today, now the Padres are right back 7 games back instead of 6 games, instead of six games back, where they started going into today. And they obviously can't gain ground on the Los Angeles Dodgers in the wild card, regardless of if the Dodgers lose tonight against Houston with Max Scherzer on the mound. So crushing loss. Padres, at least they get an off day to, reset. They get to play an Arizona Diamondbacks team that sucks this year. And then they get to play Miami at home in front of their home crowd, a team that's in last place in the NL East, a team that's not a playoff team, a team that doesn't have Starling Marte anymore. So that makes the lineup a little shorter. And hopefully Lewis Brinson can calm down with the offensive outburst before the Marlins head into Petco Park at the beginning of next week. So I did want to get to Melanson. I saw people on Twitter like, would you trust Melanson, at Dodger Stadium in the 9th inning with a lead? Blah blah blah. It's like yes, I would. It's easy right now to have the emotional reaction about, oh wow, Daniel Hudson's the closer now because Melanson just blew that save. I don't see that. I don't foresee that happening. I think Melanson's still going to be the closer. I see in the play like the rest of the year, and then when it comes to the playoff, I think that's when you go more by feel and you take most of the analytics out, unless you're the Tampa Bay Rays, of course, obviously last year with Snell on the mound. But I think that's where you take the analytics out, and it's a lot more of emotion, stuff like that. But for the rest of the year, I think Melanson's still going to be the closer. I think where Hudson becomes the closer is when Melanson, is pitched back-to-back days, don't want to push him a third because there's no need to, or Melanson, you can just see his velocity's down, he's tired when he needs rest. I see that scenario. Or maybe times where Tingler just says, hey, I want to see Daniel Hudson in a closing situation. So he's familiar with that, pitching at Petco Park in a closing situation against a division rival or something, so that he's comfortable doing that when the postseason comes. Not that he wouldn't be, but I think he would be more comfortable doing that if he has the experience this year. But I think Melanson, you still have to have confidence in the guy. I mean, gee whiz, this guy's leads the league in saves for a reason. And yeah, total confidence in the guy. 4 out of the 32 save opportunities this year have been blown. That's it. And you look at other relievers, Chapman, it felt like Aroldis Chapman in New York, he blew like 4 leads in a week and highlighted by when he gave up that 4-run lead to the Angels. I went to that game at Yankee Stadium, where he had a 4-run lead against the Los Angeles Angels who didn't have Mike Trout in the lineup. They didn't have Shohei Ohtani in the lineup because he pitched, so they got rid of the DH. He lost a 4-run lead. So there's other closers that have done worse than Melanson this year, and other teams continue to keep going back to them. So again, only 4 out of 32 saves Melanson has blown this year. Some of them are obviously memorable, like the Cincinnati game, because Padres ended up coming back and winning. This game memorable for the wrong reasons, but you have to have confidence in him. So, only 12% of the time he's not locking you down. So I'll take those odds. I get, you're going to look at that 12%. It's like, I wish it was 0%. If it was a wild card game at Dodger Stadium or something against the Dodgers, I wish it was, 0. Well, look, come on. 0% can't happen. Trevor Hoffman, who I consider, yes, I might be biased, I consider him the best closer ever. I get that Mariano Rivera has more saves than him. I understand. But Trevor Hoffman, and this is a total debate you can have for another day, but quickly, Hoffman had less opportunities to have saves than Mariano did. He did it on worse teams than Mariano did. Mariano had the best team ever, arguably, to have save opportunities for. So my point is, even the best relievers, they struggle at times. And Melanson's been one of the best, if not the best, closer this year in terms of save opportunities. 32 save opportunities, only 4 of them blown. So I will take that any day, because that means that 88% of the time, which is a big high percentage, he's going to lock it down, and you're going to be shaking hands and slapping butts on your way into the Padres dugout. So I'm confident in him. Yes, he's allowed. He didn't have a good day. He's allowed to have that. Still confident in him. Will it be good to have Daniel Hudson as an insurance, going into the playoffs? If you're measuring by feel, of course. And that's what the Padres got him for, was so he could pitch those late innings and maybe close if Melanson's not feeling it. But Melanson still deserves to be the closer. So that's that. Again, a crushing loss. You'd like to win both of those games. Hopefully it's not a game that the Padres, at the end of the year, they're like, we should have won that game. Now we lose home field advantage in a wild card race because of that, or because of some other games earlier this year. Pittsburgh comes to mind, at Pittsburgh, where, Blake Snell sucked. That's one of those days where he just didn't pitch well. They split that series. You thought they could win 3 out of 4. So if you could cherry pick all day, you could cherry pick with the Giants, the best record in the league, and they'd say the same thing. So I'm not going to harp on that, but still a crushing loss because they were 1 out away. And in any other sport, they would have won the game. They could have kneeled. With 30 seconds left on the clock. That's what it was. Or 24 seconds in basketball, they could have just dribbled the clock out. Can't do that in baseball. They didn't get the 27th out. That's it. So, all right. So Arizona series preview a little bit here. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They have the off day tomorrow on Thursday. 2 off days in the same week. Again, Padres didn't have many off days. They had a bunch of 30 games and 31 days stretches in the first half. Brutal schedule in the first half. Now they get more days off. They get compensated. It does have to, weigh out. So game 1 on Friday, Caleb Smith for the Diamondbacks will take the mound. Padres have good numbers against him. Against Ryan Weathers, 7:10 first pitch. Ryan Weathers has got to look to pitch a whole lot dang better than he did in his last start against the Colorado Rockies, where he gave the grand slam in the first. 2 of those guys were walks. He gave up 2 more homers. Just was not a good night for him. And hopefully he can flush that and pitch better against Arizona. So that's what you're looking for there. 7:10 first pitch. Game 2, Taylor Widener for the Diamondbacks and Yu Darvish for the Padres. This is going to be an interesting game for me, at least for Yu Darvish, because obviously he had the hip inflammation, didn't go to the All-Star game, had to rehab there, and he hasn't quite pitched the same as he did the first half as that ace-type pitcher for the Padres since. And maybe it's part of the injury. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just the mechanics. And he didn't have as great a start last time out. Obviously, he gave up the homer to German Marquez. I think he gave up 3 as well, just like Weathers did the night before. He's going to have to pitch better. He's going to have to command his pitches better. But he said after that start, even after giving up a homer to the pitcher, which wasn't a cheap shot, by the way, he said after the game on Zoom that he thought he was making progress. So you have to take him for his word, and hopefully that progress keeps going and can increase, tremendously in this next start, facing a bad team. Rockies were a bad team, and he didn't do so well. So hopefully that tide turns. Game 3, Madison Bumgarner on the mound. Will Myers, Manny Machado, Eric Hosmer. Love to hit off that guy. I would be really surprised if Hosmer wasn't in the lineup for this game. He dominates him. One game to mind last year, 2020 opening day, July 23rd, the shortened season. Comes up with 6 RBIs against Bumgarner. So Hosmer really comfortable against him. Going up against Blake Snell, 110 first pitch. Blake Snell, again, 2 words to describe his start yesterday against Oakland: progress made. That's how you have to view it. Stat line looked good. Hopefully the stat line can look that clean, because that's really all that matters at the end of the day, right? As long as you win the game, as long as you, give it 1 or 2 runs, 3 runs, that's fine, because the Padres lineup should be able to score 2, 3, 4 runs, especially against the Diamondbacks, let's be honest. So even without Tatis, they're so deep. I mean, really. So, you have Adam Frazier, you have Tommy Pham, Jake Cronenworth, Manny Machado, Eric Hosmer, Will Myers, who am I forgetting? Ha-Seong Kim, Austin Nola, Victor Caratini. That's a pretty dang good catching combination. So Jake Marisnick, who contributed on Tuesday night in that win with this RBI single. So what was my point? So the Padres offense is going to provide runs most of the time. It's just a matter of Blake Snell can have another clean line like this. And hopefully it's not just a clean line, sort of kind of like he had in this Oakland game with 5 innings, 1 run. Hopefully it's more than that. Hopefully I didn't get into jams in every single inning that I pitched, right? I didn't make that big mistake, or not big, that one mistake to Marte where he hit it a mile to left field. I didn't, walk guys, and now they're second. I didn't, be a little too careless, in my opinion, with runners on base. Just let them steal back second to third so that now they're, instead of one guy in scoring position, there's two. Just those little things. That's what I'm going to be looking for. And I'm hopefully, 2 words to describe Snell's start, that Sunday start in the recap episode, hopefully on Sunday. Hopefully, the 2 words that I make is progress made, or 3 words, more progress made. Because if he can be any resemblance of the Blake Snell in 2018 or in the World Series in Game 6 there, the Padres are going to be set up pretty dang well, because that narrows the uncertainty, whatever, however you want to say it, whatever word I just made up. It narrows the number of guys that you're uncertain about in terms of length, in terms of saying, okay, bullpen, you have to go out in the first inning today instead of the third, because we don't know how good this pitcher X is going to do. So hopefully, obviously, we want every starting pitcher to do well. We're all Padres fans, diehard Padres fans. So that's all you're looking for this series. Then they play Miami Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I believe. So Padres fans, hopefully you guys can show up loud. I get it's not the Dodgers, but the crowds have been pretty dang good. I must admit, being in the ballpark for that Colorado series, I get there was giveaways, but a lot of fans showed up. The Friar Faithful showed out against a bad team. So hopefully that continues. This has been episode 50 of the Talking Friars podcast. We have a couple guests scheduled for this week, dropping either Thursday or Friday. Hopefully, I believe it's probably going to be Thursday, just so you guys can listen to that on the off day, along with this episode, if that's when you're listening to it. I appreciate that. Kevin Acey, love Kevin's work. Has a bunch of inside sources. We'll talk to him about all that went on in the trade deadline, the Tatis injury, Gore updates, Paddock's injury, anything you can imagine we're going to talk to him about. We got Padres diehard fan. I think he is right up there with me in terms of being diehard Padre fans. Ryan Cohen, he'll join the show. So stay tuned for that, obviously. But that's all I have. Ben Fadden here, episode 50 of the Talking Friars podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, let's go Padres.